Ohayo gozaimasu. Genki desu ka, minasan? Good morning. How's everyone doing today? As you can suspect here, I am heading into work. And here in Indiana, it is dark, and today it's kind of rainy. I know I've done most of these the last couple months, and I'm like, oh, it's a beautiful day here in sunny Indiana, or Hoosier land, and all that. And it was today's kind of dreary and rainy, and it's kind of And like I said in the previous one or two videos, that it's getting darker later, so it's not getting the sun's not coming out as early as it has been. So of course, fall is upon us, or autumn, maybe depending on where you live in the country. But I had some deep thoughts about Ty and Mike over at Chasing Cardboard. I saw their video that they released, or I got the gist of it. I watched most of it, I guess. Well, I guess I can see it all. Some of it wasn't really pertinent to The Rock, so I can't honestly say I saw all that. But The Rock stuff I watched, and so I thought it was appropriate. That I think came out yesterday, and that was the day in Indiana, in Indianapolis, that AEW came to town. Good old wrestling was in town, so I was like, oh, how perfect was that we had talk about wrestling autographs, and wrestling came to Indiana, to the Indiana Farm Bureau Coliseum, and so how appropriate. So I just wanted to talk about, there's a couple of things I felt like from I'm sure a lot of people have this perspective and whatnot, and I'm the first one to say that I'm glad for everybody's sake that the autograph came back as authentic. That's fine. That's great. As everyone knows, it is a literal crapshoot when you authenticate anything. And it could easily have been another way, right? It's a 50-50 every time you do that. It could have been the guy did not authenticate the autograph. So, if you pop those things out and resend them, it could be a completely opposite outcome. Now, obviously, it's Chasing Cardboard guys, Ty in particular, got the results he wants for his vindication or whatnot, and that's fine. I'm glad, but really, we all know that's the same idea. If that wasn't true, then people would not pop graded cards out of their PSA holders and resubmit them. End of story, period. So we all know this is a subjective thing. It is not a science. And so let's just get that out of the way, so no one can claim that this is 100% authentic. The only way to know it's 100% authentic is if you were there yourself with your own eyeballs and did it. And even then, we know you can send that autograph, and we've all heard the stories that the person got the autograph in person, they submitted it, and it came back as unauthentic or not real or whatever. And it's the same thing it goes. And they authenticated the ones that people know are fake, and they've authenticated them. So let's just take that off the table. And then I didn't watch every single video under the sun that talked about this issue, so I obviously don't know everybody's perspective on the thing and where people are getting it from and where they're coming at it from. But the one thing I will say is that the way it was handled is what I had heard that most people are the problem with. And Ty doesn't really acknowledge any of that in this most recent video of him taking a victory lap and saying how great they are. Ever the showman, he's like the William Castle of sports car collecting in this community. Ty is. He's a huckster. And it's unbelievable, this guy. Instead of being 100% authentic himself and just being gracious, he wants to keep stoking the fires of the people that he says are the reason why they're in negativity and these hateful people in the hobby that are just terrible, negative, just whatever, just vibe or whatnot you get, and he feeds into it, and he tries to come from it from the higher than thou art attitude, but it's the same thing from just a different side of the coin. And the issue is that it was relisted. And let's not forget, the whole thing could have been avoided if you just went and got the card graded or the cards graded. We are not. That's not even acknowledged in this video. And if you really felt that strongly that you knew it was going to come back as an authentic autograph, then you would have done it, because a rock autograph is way more money than $60-something authenticated. So the fact that you didn't believe in it yourself and then come back and act like you knew all along, you just 100% just knew in the bottom of your heart and the deepest part of your soul that this was a real autograph, and that guy that vouched for it, was you're just going based off of his proof of his word, not any other real proof, just his word. That's all you needed. If you felt that strongly about it, you should have went and got authenticated. You didn't. So you on your channel yourself have said, and Mike has done this a million times himself, you go get your autographs authenticated. You send them to PSA DNA and get them authenticated. The reason you didn't do that the first time in the first place, I 100% believe, is that you didn't think it was going to come back as authentic. So you just wanted to unload an autograph, and you got caught up in all the drama that you have created yourself. And then you had to, show you want to put your money where your mouth was, and it worked out well for you. So, awesome. Good for you. Pat on the back. But the fact of the matter is that you on your own channel have mentioned millions of times, either on the Chasing Cardboard or the, I don't even know, the Bench Clear Media, that you send in autographs to get authenticated. So you know the process, you know how it works. You didn't do it because you didn't have faith that autograph was going to come back as authentic. If you did, then you would have done it, because there's no way you would have been okay with this basically giving away a rock autograph, which is what you end up doing in the long run, or selling it for $60-something. But because you got painted into a corner, you end up doing it the way you did it. And so now somebody gets a free rock authenticated autograph. But that is the issue at hand. The one, if you truly believe that was authentic, you would have got an autograph. Authentic autograph, you would have done it. You would have done that from the inception. You didn't do it. And then you relisted it. Now, I know for a fact, and I don't really want to call this guy out necessarily, but I talked to this individual directly, and they said what happened. And what happened was that he pulled the one, once the autograph initial issue came up, they took it down, and then he has a kid, a teenager working for him, and apparently their process is that if a card doesn't sell or somebody didn't buy it, or someone bought it and then backs out of the deal, they have, like, I guess, a policy at wherever they're in Idaho and Ty's place, that they just automatically relist it. So instead of Ty just owning it and saying, we relisted it because this kid didn't know the situation. If this is all true, who knows? But someone in the know told me, and I don't necessarily want to put this guy on blast, but if it needs to be said, I have no problem doing that because I have the receipts. But they said that that's their policy. And so instead of Ty just coming out and saying, you know what, I made a mistake, I relisted it, and either he could blame the kid or he could blame himself, whatever. I understand you don't want to blame some teenage kid. But instead of doing that, you decide to try to act like everybody else is the toxic people in the community. You knew what you did was not right by relisting it, regardless if it was you physically relisting it or some kid or whatever the case may be. There was no taking ownership of the mistake. And that is where everybody has a problem with, that it came back as possibly or not likely authentic on the initial go around, and when it was taken down to get a guy back the money, you relisted it. Either that was on purpose or an accident. What I heard, it was an accident. But instead of taking ownership of it, you just dug in and blamed everybody else for being toxic and blah blah blah. And so you're not even taking responsibility for your actions. Not one time does Ty make any apologies for anything. And that is the biggest problem, because when you have smug people who think they're better than others, then they don't want to take any ownership of it, because when you take ownership and you have to apologize, you have to take acceptance that you did something wrong. No one that I heard, and I could be wrong, and I mean, it is what it is, said that the autograph 100% was not real. Maybe they did, and that's fine. But that's not where I'm coming from. I've dealt with autographs. I've been in the autograph collecting community since the mid 90s. And quite frankly, I've been collecting autographs since the 80s when I was going to card shows with my dad. Now, I can tell you, I got thousands of autographs over the years. I don't do the PSA DNA thing me personally, but I obviously know how it works. And these guys who it's their business should definitely know how to work. And they do. They just play stupid when it's convenient, and then they play like, they're God's gift, and they're the professionals, and then they're the, arbiters of truth when it's convenient also. So they get to play both sides of the coin, and that's the ridiculous part. Being humble and taking some ownership and being gracious sometimes can serve you well. Blaming everybody else for your mistakes and for the way people are reacting because it looks like you are purposely trying to hoodwink people and bamboozle people is not anybody jumping to that conclusion. That's exactly what it was. Now, it all worked out for you in the long run, the situation, apparently, which is fine. But that doesn't take away from anything about how we got here, which is 100% your fault. No one else's fault. Your fault. And if you would have apologized and you would have been gracious about it and you would have said, you know what, there were some mistakes made here, you all are correct, then the whole situation could have been avoided. But the fact is that it was everybody else's problem, and that it was never Ty's problem, it was never Ty's issues, never chasing cardboard. That is the problem. Sometimes you have to eat crow. Sometimes you just have to swallow your pride and say, you know what, there were some mistakes made here. I mean, if you're a grown-ass man, then that's what grown-ass men do, take ownership of it. It's easy to take ownership of it right at the moment because it worked out to your favor, which is fine, again. But the fact of the matter is, this all could have been avoided. This would have been a non-issue if the appropriate response was given in the first place. Or just getting the autograph authenticated from the outset. Or when it came back as possible or unlikely authentic, then take it down, keep it down, and then either put the listing, it came back as possibly unauthenticated by PSA DNA, whatever, or BGS or whatever it was, and put that in your listing, which you didn't do. You just resubmitted it the exact same way. And then you did the response video of like throwing everybody under the bus who disagree with you and said that the whole thing stinks to high heaven because it does and did. And then not taking ownership of it all. And then at the end of the day, paint yourself in the corner, then go, okay, I want to do this. Now I'm going to give away this really expensive car because it got plastic around it. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And the fact of the matter is that they had the audacity to get on the camera or whatever yesterday or the day before, whatever it was. I saw it. I think it was yesterday. And got on there and said, basically, trying to take pot shots and snide remarks and all that. They're just as bad as the people that they claim that they're against. Instead of just going up there and saying, hey, we got a giveaway. We made a promise. We're going to do a giveaway. The car came back authentic. I'm glad that, we were able to put this to bed, and, we stand by our guy, blah, blah, blah. And just, that it was like, pot shot city. And so then they're going to be the first ones to cry and bitch and moan when some other thing comes up or they get caught doing something else or there's some other kind of attitude that needs to be adjusted and people call them out on it. The fact of the matter is you're just as bad as the people you're claiming to be are the bad parts of the hobby just because you're not being as, I don't know, what's the word you want to use, like brash, quote unquote, mean spirited or whatever, or agenda driven, as you would like to have alluded to get clicks and, feed the hate or whatnot. You're doing the exact same thing, but from a different perspective, trying to, package it in a different way. So don't take that, high ground like you're doing something so much different because you're doing the exact same stuff. You're just trying to do it for the direction. And you use that opportunity and try to. So you took this situation and turned it into this whole thing where you're like, come to watch our episodes and watch this and watch that and do this and do that. So you're intertwining your drama that you created yourself into trying to generate more clicks and more views for your own show. So, I mean, you're doing this the exact same thing you're claiming other people to do. Like they're trying to like get more clicks and more views and more whatever, because they're all about the hate and this, that, and the other, and this negative vibe in the community. And then you're doing the exact same thing. You literally are promoting your own show inside of your current show, trying to say it's like some kind of inception, like you're in some kind of alternate universe. So you're over promoting your own stuff while you're generating and living off of the drama that you caused from the outset. So the whole thing is just, ridiculous. I'm glad that whoever got that card got it for free. And hopefully this whole thing, like you said, which I agree with, can be put to bed now, finally. But this all could have been avoided if Ty just did the right thing from the outset. Get the card authenticated. That's the biggest thing. This all would have been done from the outset, and that would have been done. Second, take responsibility for relisting it, which is where the outcry began. My knowledge of this whole thing only began after the card was relisted and the video doubled down on everybody else being negative. It's like, homeless innocent little lamb running around in Idaho. That's ridiculous. Everybody else was at fault. They're terrible. And I'm just the open badlands of Idaho or whatnot. If that all would have been resolved, then this would have never been an issue. But instead of taking any ownership, explaining what had happened, and saying, you know what, yeah, I could have done this thing different. Nobody else was at fault. He didn't do anything wrong. It's the problem. So that's my 2 cents. It is what it is. It's very frustrating. The way the whole YouTube works now is this type of stuff. It's ridiculous. And the only reason I personally felt anything one way about it or not one way or about it or not is because I felt like, and I still do, and it's 100% real, is that Ty in general were not being authentic as they perceive themselves to be or as they present themselves to be. They try to bamboozle people. And I did not like that. I did not like that approach. And I want to put a light on things like that. I cannot stand people they look and act like they are some kind of blameless, godlike, people in the hobby, that they're just, these perfect little entities running around and everybody else is out there just doing bad stuff when they're just as guilty as the quote unquote other channels that they claim to be just all about the negativity. When they themselves do it, they don't think they're doing it because they don't look at themselves as the bad guys. But you know what? In every story, the bad guy doesn't think they're the bad guy either. They think they're the good guy. So, there's that. So it is what it is. Everybody's gonna have their own opinions. Everybody's gonna have their own viewpoints, and they're gonna have their own perspectives on it. That's mine. I'm glad at the end of the day it all worked itself out for everybody involved, quite frankly. Because really, that's what, at the end of the day, I want it to be a positive place. I want it to be a place where people can come and learn and get education from and just share experiences. What I don't want is not taking ownership of your own mistakes and then blaming others because you got caught with your hand in the cookie jar, and then do videos and then not take responsibility and blame everybody else. Like, that's just ridiculous. That's literally what a child does. So it is what it is. So hopefully this has all been behind us and everybody can move forward. I'm sure there'll be a lot of other people who have views and thoughts about this as well. But until next time, I'll talk to you all later. Peace.